If you've ever thought to yourself, I'd rather just read about this than actually do it, you're not alone. The Enneagram 5 newsletter exists to help you move from knowing to experiencing. Every Saturday, you'll get insights designed to help 5s grow without overwhelm. Sign up for free today at enneagram5.com/newsletter or visit the link in the description. Now on to the show.
So, Cody.
Yeah?
No, other Cody.
Oh, sup?
What's it like to be friends with Cody?
Well, that's a good question. Don't talk all at once. No.
So we've got a couple of guests on the show today.
Yeah.
We've got Cody Ray.
Hey there.
And we've got Brandon.
What's up?
And so we had this conversation that, Cody and I had this conversation on what it's like to have friends as a 5, how we approach friendships, how we neglect friendships most of the time.
Yeah.
And so then we thought it'd be fun to bring on a couple of people who have known us a really long time, who aren't 5s, to talk about what it's like to be friends with a 5.
Yeah. It's going to be fun.
So let's start with Brandon. Brandon, you and I have known each other since high school.
Yeah, like 20 years. A little over 20 years,
actually. God, it has been that long.
Because we're about to do our 20-year reunion, which, if you don't go, will be absolutely horrible. So
I'm the life of the party. Is that what you're saying?
You're the life of my party because I don't deal with very much. I don't deal with very many of the people we went to high school with.
That felt so romantic.
Dude, it did. Yeah. Should be on a card somewhere.
Yeah. You're the life of my party. So, Brandon, you are a 7.
Yeah.
Wing 8?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 7 through and through, man.
Yes. Yep.
What an interesting personality for you to be friends with.
I know, right?
Right? Well, he didn't know I was a 7 when we met. So that's how I suckered him in.
No 7 suckers a 5 in anything.
That's it's definitely the other way around.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right, and we've also got Cody Ray. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And how long have you known Cody?
Probably 13-ish years now. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. And I'm a 2.
You're a 2.
Yeah. When I think, I'm not entirely sure how the wing ideas work, and I'd have to pull my report or whatever up to look at it, but I think 6 is where I go. Like, I know that I've also kind of like lived as a 6, like when I'm unhealthy.
I thought you were a 6 for a long time.
Yeah, I thought I was a 6 for a long time.
And then, yeah, the more you've got to know yourself in your 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very much a 2.
Yeah.
Is that, like, you guys obviously study up on this a lot more. Do you think just getting to know yourself is like how you kind of really figure out that part of it? Because the Enneagram is like, you can identify with characteristics of a lot of things, but you really have to know yourself well enough to.
Yeah, I would assume that's how the first 9 people got there. Because, like, how else would you have gotten
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, because I don't think your type really, for the Enneagram, your type doesn't change really. Like you find it, you find the one. Like when you keep distilling yourself down, you
that's
get to
the part,
that place
and
where
that's
you're
a good
like,
way to put it.
This is actually the core of like who I am. This is me.
The distilling part was actually what kind of, you put
Sure.
it better, but that's what I was kind of referring to, is like, it's almost hard to do when you're young because you don't really know yourself well enough.
Right.
Yeah, because I thought I was a 1 through most of my religious years. And I was definitely not a 1.
All religious people are 1s, really.
If it's guys,
Yeah.
you're either
Or-
8
yeah,
or a
that's
1.
a good, yeah,
Well,
that's a good point.
Or a
Yeah.
6. I mean, the loyalist idea, that was very much brought on by my religious upbringing.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
You know,
So I'd say 6 for sure. But then, and then like every woman tries to get boxed into a 2 personality, like an unhealthy 2.
Well, see, when I was a kid, my mom gave me a bookmark that had my name on it, and it was like the biblical, like what your name means.
Yeah.
Helper.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah, I know. And it's hilarious because I ain't had helper to nobody.
Yeah.
Cody Ray, I'm curious. I don't think I've heard the story of how you and Cody met. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like, I don't remember like the day we met, but we were both playing a lot of open mics at the Camp House, the original Camp House, which was on William Street in downtown Chattanooga.
Yep.
And it doubled as the Mission Church.
Mm-hmm.
And so Cody and I were still, I think I'd left Memphis, so I'd moved to Chattanooga, which meant I'd left the church that I had interned at and thought I would work for, and like I kind of lived that life. And so when I moved here, I was already kind of away from that. And Cody was very much in your years of like, because you were working full time with churches and with those things. So, but we met doing open mics. And so me and my friend John used to play open mics at the Camp House as a duo, and Cody was doing a lot of solo stuff there. And then you got connected with my friend Margaret, who used to sing on your songs.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I think you asked me to play with you, or we were like, we started exchanging songs, I think, first, probably.
Yeah.
Like, because you, me, and John were like talking and hanging out. I don't know. I remember you in my apartment on Vine Street at one point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah, I remember being there. Yeah, one time, and we were all like singing in the living room or something. Was that
You, me, and John?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was either a cover or a song that we were writing. I can't remember now.
Yeah. Man, good times though.
Good times.
What was your first impression of Cody?
Man, so I thought this earlier when you were asking about like what has it been like how has it been being his friend? There was like a level of sameness. Like Cody felt so similar to me because I think we both had the religious upbringing, and we had been like musicians in church, and we had decided to go into that and kind of like, and I think honestly, and I don't think I've ever talked about this, but I think kind of for the same reasons, I'm projecting my own here, but I feel like I did it. It was kind of like, I know this, and it's kind of my easy way out of having to go into the real world. I can just like stay in the church and make a living here and do this. It was like comfort, I guess. And I guess I kind of felt that you were doing the same thing. It's like, oh, he feels like me in a way. Yeah, that's how it felt. Mm-hmm. But also very different, because the more I got to know you, I was like, oh, we don't have the same taste in music. Like we're not like, our voices are very different. We sing very different. Like I remember feeling like, oh, we're not like a good musical match until we started playing music for a while. But at first I was like, oh, we won't vibe. But we did.
Yeah, but we did.
Okay, Brandon.
Josiah.
Do you remember the first time we met?
Yeah. I picked, this is such like a first date thing now that I'm thinking about it, because
we have a bromance, like, let's face it.
Well, you weren't driving yet, and I was driving. We were in high school, and I was like, we had met in choir, and we kind of had chatted a little bit, and you didn't know anyone because you were new, and I was like, well, do you want to go to our high school was playing football that night, and I was like, you want to go to the football game, which in retrospect was something that he would probably never want to do. But I had just met him, so I was like, do you want to go? And you were like, yeah, like I don't drive, so I went to pick you up. And the reason I remember this is because when I went to pick you up, I went to the wrong house, because like you guys all know, like Josiah lived in a rural kind of place, and so the street was dark. I think maybe was your mailbox across the street or something?
Yeah.
So I pulled into a place like down the street from where he actually lived, and it was like scary. Like it was like hillbilly hell. Like it was like some Hills Have Eyes people probably lived there, and I was like, dude, I was like, I didn't even want to get out of my car, so I'm like texting him, like, I'm in your driveway, and he's like, no, you're not. And I was like, thank God. So I like threw my car in reverse and got the hell out of there as fast as I could. And I finally figured out the right house. But anyway, we went to a football game, which I don't remember anything about. And then the thing that I did remember about it is he ended up staying the night at my house. And like, we just talked about everything until like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, like something crazy like that. Like the sun was up, I think.
Wow.
We just talked all night long about all kinds of stuff. And like, for the first time of us hanging out, like I think we both knew like each other's life story and like all kinds of stuff that we had never told anyone else probably. And so we just had like an instantly deep connection from that. So
Yeah, and we both were oriented toward going more at that deep level.
yeah.
And like or being comfortable enough, like if the other person is, to go past that surface level and like talk about real stuff.
Yeah. Which I've always loved about you. That was one of our biggest things of like how we connected, because our personality types are very different, but we always connected on that. And like we never felt like we couldn't tell each other something where there was something like too embarrassing to talk about. Or like even if and the other thing at the time, which is crazy now given where we are now in our lives, but like I looked up to Josiah as like a better Christian than me. I was out there doing, high school kid shit and just didn't really, care. And Josiah was much more mindful of like, and it had a lot to do with his upbringing too. Like my upbringing was more like full of just like kind of back row Baptists, like people who showed up around Christmas time or something,
Yeah.
So it wasn't super religious. And so we're Josiah. But I was like, I felt like given the culture that we grew up in, like that's how I needed to be. That's how I was supposed to be. So I was like, he's also a good influence on me. I thought at the time that's one of the things I
Boy, were you wrong about that.
was I wrong about that?
I would disagree completely.
No, actually, I mean, aside from any of that, which obviously none of us knew much about back then, we were just kind of going with the way we were raised, but still, all that aside, absolutely wonderful friend, continues to be. So he still was a good influence, just not for the reason I thought at the time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So Cody, Ray, you and Cody have been friends, I think, almost as long as Cody and I have been friends, or maybe the same amount. But you and I didn't meet until last year, which is crazy.
Like Cody's wedding or bachelor party.
Yeah. And
Like I'd heard about you for a long time.
yeah. He never talked about you, so
Heard.
I like to keep my life separate, okay? At least I did, and up until a point.
No.
Clearly.
But that tracks as Cody. Like that makes sense. I was gonna say too, like the fact that y'all had deep conversations like that in your teen years is really, I think, special. I don't feel like I had conversations like that until I was in my 20s. Like really getting to know people, and even just like someone really wanting to get to know me. Like I felt like if I had deep conversations, I learned how to have deep conversations about like theology and religion, I think, and like, just faith and church stuff. Because you're sort of mining your internal, but you're not, I don't know. It's like for specific things, I got good at those conversations, but the fact that y'all were having like deep friend talks in your teens and not just distracting yourselves is really cool.
And I really valued it. And I don't even know if he knows how much I valued it, but I did. Like, it was just one of those things where I had all of these thoughts and like all of these things that because I'm a very introspective person. Like I just think about a lot of, myself and just all these, and also just trying to assess things all the time, not only just with myself, but just how I think about things. And so I'd have all of these like thoughts, and I'm just, at the time it's like, well, there's nowhere to express this because no one your age, when you're like 16, nobody wants to talk about it.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Having a friend like Josiah and that was something that we did a lot, actually. Like we would hang out and be up until sunup.
Just talking.
Often. Yeah. Just talking, hanging out. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually did that a lot when I was a kid too, though. Like I had really deep conversations with people. The difference is that I don't remember who those people were.
It was actually just you.
I don't know why. I can't picture their face. I can't picture their face or their name.
I just remember me. That's all I remember.
different versions of Cody around the room.
Her name's Irma.
She builds fences in her spare time.
Do you want to get back to the bachelor party when we met?
Yeah. So Cody Ray, you and I was joking. Like Cody did mention you, mainly like playing music together, and when he would tell me about you guys having shows and stuff. And
wait, hang on, you guys met at the bachelor party?
That's right.
Yeah.
And became inseparable. Basically.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So I think you and I have talked about this, Cody, but
yeah.
Going into that weekend, that whole time last year was really transformational for me because it was just coming out of the summer when I had that big, transformational night. And then I kept finding myself in situations that turned all of my like worldviews around like smaller things like on its head.
Yeah.
And I went into that for whatever reason. I probably because the nature of the contention that we kind of had in our relationship the couple of years prior to that, like, you know.
Oh yeah.
And so I had these preconceptions about what your friend group would be like. And so I was really kind of dreading that trip. I had so much anxiety around it, and I didn't want to go, and I was doing it just because I cared about you and I was your best man. And so like I was kind of responsible for it, and I wanted to make sure you had a good time. So I was trying to remain open, and I'm like, oh God, this is going to suck. And then we get to we all met at Need Loves for breakfast before we got on the road. And it was like just the conversation in that. I was like, wait, these people, like there's substance to them. And Cody Ray was one of the first.
Thought I had a bunch of dumb friends.
No, that's what I was thinking. I was like,
I expected them to be so shallow.
Brandon's rethinking his relationship with Josiah. He's like, wow, this guy's a dick.
Yeah, now I'm hearing how much of an asshole that's. But yeah, I guess it was more like I didn't think that I would find a group of people that I could be myself around and be accepted.
Yeah.
And then Cody Ray was one of the people in that group that really made me feel accepted really quickly. And Cody Ray, you have this deep interest in other people, and this like genuine curiosity, and you have a big heart. And that comes through, but at the same time, you're also very analytical. And so it's like we were able to connect really quickly in that way.
Yeah.
And it was similar to, how Brandon and I, different, but similar, like how Brandon and I would have those conversations. Like you and I just like went in real deep, or like real quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's some glue here between all three of us. And I would probably imagine from what you're saying, probably you too, Brandon, where like you were talking about having things that begin to click for you. And it was sort of like your whole worldview is changing now. Like I went through that in 2021, and my whole like life changing experience, which for me was a marriage ending, and I had all of those. I remember when you start talking about that, like all these little things, like people were changing how I saw people. Like I just started seeing the world differently. I had gone through that, and I recognized immediately too that you were like, when you started sharing your life with me, I was like, oh yes, like here's another person who's gone from like a performative personality, it's like I am this personality and this life and these boxes that I check, and I'm just a full human being, and I'm just existing and living and finding myself in that world. And I feel like we connected on that immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been so cool since I've known you, because it's just unfolded quicker and quicker and bigger and bigger for you in the last, year or so.
Yeah.
Right at a year now.
Yeah. We're like right at a year. And I feel like I've known you
I know.
like as long as I've known Brandon in some ways.
It does feel that, yeah. You just feel like Josiah. Oh,
Well, that's the great part about skipping the surface level stuff, and like because you really can truly get to know someone in a short period that way.
yeah.
And that's why Josiah and I clicked so well. And I would like to point out that you were talking about not meeting Cody Ray until Cody's bachelor party. I did not meet Cody until your bachelor party.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
So spooky.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's wild.
But I'd heard about you. I just never met you until then.
And on that point, I've been trying to keep this in my mind so I didn't forget. I think that it's kind of funny when I think back at how as a 5, and I feel like you probably experienced this too, Josiah, where it's like in different points in your life, you feel like, I just wish I could find a group of people that I get along with and they all get along. And you like, it's like you like idolize that idea that's on, every TV show of like,
Right.
Like the group of friends that just all get along and they all have their own dynamic, and it's always like something interesting's happening or whatever. And I think growing up, I was always looking for that. And then in being in church, everything was always superficial. It always felt like, it's
homogenized.
It's a phony version, right? And so it's like, I knew that wasn't it. So then I was also kind of being not brainwashed, but like it was, indoctrinated in this idea that like, oh, that's actually these people that are pretending with each other. Like that's
how it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it kind of ruins relationships even further for me as a 5 because I was already on the fence, and I think that was a big part of it. But I think about it, as I got older and through different points of my life, I think a 5 tends to like dip their toes in different groups and see like, will you accept me? Is this like a thing that we can do? And then you do that a bunch throughout all your life. But then like me, I kept all of that separate so often. And then I'm sitting, I guess it was a kind of an unconscious realization where I was like, I've been looking for groups this whole time, but I actually have all the pieces to the group that I want. And so when I was thinking about the bachelor party, it was actually pretty easy for me to go, okay, here's a group of people that I love and care about, and then started just as a 5 would do, start curating personality types. And I just bring the certain group together that I thought would be the most fun for me in any case, like no matter what happens, good or bad, it's going to be interesting for me. And then I also thought this would be interesting for everybody else. I think this is actually a really well-rounded group.
You're
so
such a sociopath.
Curating it all around me. Everyone will serve
and
me.
each other. Like I thought about
this
the
personality
scenario.
and this personality, they might fight, and that would be fun for me.
Man, maybe 5s are the ones behind reality
But
television.
actually, so that you bring that up is interesting because maybe it's not universal, but I'm not a 5 and I identify with that wholeheartedly. Like I did the same thing because I would always see groups of friends that I thought I was jealous of in terms of like their relationships.
Yeah.
And then I would actually spend time really around them. And then they would just like talk shit about each other or like there were things that didn't seem genuine.
Right.
And then to your point about church, like that's absolutely like people do like small groups, right? And they act like they're all like everyone's like just so into everyone and like just cares about them so much and all of these things. And then you learn that it's like, it is very performative. And so to Cody's point, like I thought the same thing for years, like none of this is real, right? And so it did actually make me super thankful for people like Josiah in my life. All of the transformation that he's gone through has been similar to some of the transformation that I've gone through. And so I never felt like there was anything that like I couldn't just, like we couldn't sit down and have a conversation. We actually had a recent one at, and you came up and stayed at the that hotel in Gallatin, and I came and hung out with you at the bar.
Yeah.
Like we had like a long conversation about all kind of like religion and all kinds of, as we do, like just at a hotel bar, just talking about religion because that's what people do.
I mean, that does actually sound par for the course. That tracks for sure.
But yeah, exactly the same thing. Like I ended up having to, and I did the same thing. I kept friend groups separate because I didn't know like how well they would get along with other people. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, this person might not really care for this group and this person might not care for that group. So I would keep it separate that way. And then I was like, after a time, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to try it anyway. I'm just going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So,
and what you usually find is that the commonality you found with all of them, they also usually have. And so it kind of brings everything together in that way. And yeah, it ends up, now I'm like so happy that all of my different parts of my life have bled together because it's better. And now I feel like I do have the community of friends that I feel more enriched by in my life. And so if I hadn't done that, then I'd still just be here trying to figure out who my group is.
Maybe that's something that comes with age too.
Yeah.
I think you start to, or at least I have started to care less. Like you were talking about, like when you were younger and Josiah, the same thing, particularly within the church environment, like things being performative and the way you live being performative, but essentially living as if other people are watching you. And I think when you get older, you just get a little bit tired of that anyway. And you're like, you know what? If they don't like it, they don't like it, and you just go. Or at least that's been my experience. But
Same.
So now that we've talked through some of the amazing benefits of being friends with the 5.
I thought that's all we were supposed to talk about.
Classic
Isn't this
7.
a propaganda thing?
What are some maybe a little bit tiny, kind of annoying or frustrating things? I know there aren't many, but if you could really think hard about it,
really tough. I think for me as a 7, and we talked about this earlier, something that I obviously didn't identify at a young age, but like you like to be indoors and be like very introverted, and I want to go do stuff, and that would drive me nuts. So like we would hang out typically at your house at night till whatever hour, and then get up the next day and like, okay, well now like I'm ready to go do something or get out of the house or something. And Josiah just wants to keep doing what we were doing at 3 a.m., which is watching movies or whatever.
Watching anime,
which I also hated. So I don't know if anime is a 5 thing or not, but
no, it's not. It's not.
It was rough.
Me and you identify with that. Anime's a 5.
So, but yeah, just trying to get him like off his ass a lot of times was tough. Like I would literally go in, like he would sleep so late, and I just didn't get it. And so like I would go into his house because he always left the basement door unlocked, and I would just go in and just start throwing stuff at him or poking him or something. I'm like, dude, get up. It's like it's 1 p.m. Like, let's do something. What are you doing? So
He's a sloth.
Yeah, that was a frustrating part. And also, and I've read that this is a 5 thing. You guys can correct me. You probably know better than I do, but Josiah's aversion to physical activity, like just like if it was going to require like an increase in heart rate, he wasn't into it, dude.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I'm not like that at all, but because I'm the same way, because when we lived together and stuff, it's like I would want to go do stuff and he was just like on the couch watching anime.
Oh, this isn't a 5 thing. This isn't Josiah.
I think it's a deep depression thing.
It could, very, very well could have been, and it could be that I'm sort of like intertwining some of that. But
yeah,
I've also read that about other 5s, that they're just more. They
we do
tend to
energy calculus.
Yeah.
Like in general, we look at energy as a sort of fixed supply, and so we're very careful about where we put it, and we want to use most of it for our like mind processing, which means that we don't prioritize using it for body stuff, like anything that like puts us in our body.
Well, and mental energy tends to like drain you. I've noticed, like if you spend a lot of mental energy, like you're not going to do anything else.
Yeah, a lot of high processing. Yeah. Over processing.
Yeah, that too, which I think you've gotten better at, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's definitely been a thing, and I just didn't know about it at the time. So I just was like, I'm a kid, so I'm like, you're lame, dude. This sucks. Like, that's really the best way I could analyze it at the time.
So Cody Ray. What are some things that have sucked about being friends with Cody?
I was literally going to say that. I was going to turn it to be like, what sucks about me? Okay.
It's a really good question, honestly. I think throughout our friendship, I think our differences have always worked for whatever reason. I would say I was super anxious all the time, and so I had to be in control all the time, and I needed to have a plan for everything. And I think, which is actually not natural for me, I've learned. I don't feel this way anymore, but you, by your personality type, are a planner and an organizer, and I think sometimes for me that would feel just like
constricting,
or like that there was like a wall between us, like the fact that we both had such like calculated plans on how we were doing things.
Oh yeah,
I think,
sure.
But I also have always been a people pleaser, and so I always found a way to like work with you and work with that, and it never caused like a real problem for me. But I've noticed now that I'm a lot more just kind of like, I like jumping and just seeing how I get caught, or if I don't, just seeing how the fall is, and you are still such a planner, and I really admire it now, because it's like a balance for me. It's like, oh, I know if I'm working with Cody, like he's gonna show up with like everything on a list and everything planned, and so I like that, and I think that's something that's grown with us.
So it doesn't suck about me.
Yeah, stay on topic.
Sorry,
you just turned something that was kind of a negative into a positive.
Yeah, but I truly don't have moments where, okay, here's something. No, I think
that didn't take long.
No,
you just put your mind into it.
I think that your natural tendency to sort of, almost in the way that there was a joke earlier about how like you didn't talk about knowing me to Josiah, I think that there's a tendency with your sort of, and maybe this is a 5 thing, where you just kind of stay in your little spot. That's a weird way to put that, but you kind of just like have more of that introversion where like I don't know if life didn't keep bringing us together, if we would have stayed friends. I think there would have been an easy path, and I thought a couple of times that we would just sort of drift apart.
Yeah.
And then something would bring us back together.
Yeah.
But I think that like that could have easily happened. Maybe that's a possible negative, is that like very easily we could have drifted apart.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't talk for like a year.
Yeah.
You know?
But then when we did talk, it was like,
Right back in.
Yeah.
And reminder of like, oh, there's the sameness. This is why we always connect. You know?
yeah, there is that connection that we had, which I think was when we would get back together, then we would like do some things for a little while, then it would like kind of fade off.
The big one though was when you deconstructed. Was like that cemented like lifelong, because I had already gone through it.
Yeah.
And that was
Right.
something that was like a separation for us. You
For
know?
sure. Yeah. I completely understand that now.
And then now it's like the way that we're now layers and layers into that, because it's not really deconstruction. That's not a way it's really just like
what it feels like.
but it's self-actualization on like a longer term or longer,
Yeah.
you know, timeline.
Not much of, not deconstruction as much as reconstruction forward. But
Yeah. But our friendship could have dissolved easily, you know, throughout the years. And I think it's just random chance that it kept coming back together. But I'm sure glad it did.
Is it because that he wasn't proactive about like keeping the friendship going? Is that
Yeah. And I think, and now I know that this is more of your personality type. Like, even though we're close, like I'm like, I cannot rely on Cody to just keep showing up in my life. I have to make an effort, because neither of us will.
yeah.
And I sort of, I'm used to like, I'll start a friendship and then like, I'm always down to like hang out and be around, but I don't often initiate. Like, I've learned about myself, like,
Yeah.
but because we're both this way, actually. Dang, more sameness. I don't see. I can't. It's not. Nothing is Cody's fault. It's just like,
such a 2?
yeah. And
I think this is why Cody keeps you around and say things like nothing is Cody's fault.
I just think it's a combination.
Yeah, well, no, and I think that's definitely a vice of mine, is that I oftentimes don't invest as much in other people until like they show me kind of that big investment from their side first. And then I think, because like so often I guess I've done those kinds of things where it's like there's a subconscious level and there's a hurt there that I am not realizing that throughout my life that I did that, and it would be hard for me to like want to connect, I guess. And so it is kind of weird that I would kind of put people in those situations to do that. But
did you
as
put
I've
me in
gotten-
that situation?
a little, yeah. I think it's part of it. But it's not. But it's not. But no, it's like it's because I didn't know if you
Puppet
were
Master
also
Cody.
hesitant to do it as well. So it's like we were always kind of like this. Are we friends? Do we
Yeah.
want to be friends? Like and I felt like we were kind of suspended in that place for so long. And now I don't feel that way. Now I have to remind myself that like I don't need to wait on other people's investment. Just do it. But when somebody does, like say I reach out to you, then you're like, or you ask me to hang out, we do something. It's a really good time, and then I feel the need when I have something that I thought Cody would like this. I would call you or I would text you more. Like there's that connection piece that's like the more we're in that deeper connection where I feel that sameness and that same pageness of our friendship, I'm more invested as well naturally. I was like, I don't have to try as hard. I don't have to
Same.
make that decision.
Absolutely same.
And I think that's where we've been going for a little while now.
Yeah.
We're just more parallel, and
The cycles happened enough times over the years of us being friends where it was like, okay, like the mutual investment has slowed. This could just like dissolve, and then something would pop up, but it happened probably like 5-6 times.
Right.
And now it's like, I understand this is our cycle, and I don't like it. It just never feels unnatural to me. It's just
No.
like, it's like, oh yeah. Like,
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
and it's great.
I feel like I'm at that place now where it's like I know that throughout this life now we're in the same orbit.
Yeah.
So no matter what we do, we're always gonna meet, and so it's like we might as well just accept that and be like lifelong friends.
Yeah. It's like family.
Exactly. Yeah. It
Yeah.
feels more like family. Yeah. That's how I am with Josiah as well.
Yeah, it's similar with our friendship as well. And obviously, there's some distance there too. It's not because we live, 2.5 hours away, but still kind of over time, yeah, Josiah would just kind of be in his own world for a while, and I sometimes just didn't know what the heck was going on with him for a long time. And then we would just catch up, and he would tell me all like 2 years worth of information,
Yeah.
you know, in a
That sounds
night.
familiar.
And we would just do that. We would just do that. And I'm okay with it. Like, I think some people do kind of get bothered by it. And I guess I'm just weird. I'm like, well, people have their own lives and they have a lot going on, and I have a lot going on. So, you know, and for somebody like Josiah, especially since we've been friends for so long and we had such a great connection, I have tons and tons of leeway for, you know, to just be like, you know what, when we hang out, it'll be awesome. I know it'll be awesome. And in the meantime, like, you know, he has kids to chase around, and he has, you know, a wife to support, and a lot of things going on in his life. And so we'll get there. But yeah, it's definitely like a hot and cold thing in terms of like, in terms of hanging out, not the relationship itself. Cause I mean, we
Right.
keep in touch via text and things like that, but
Mostly memes. Yeah.
yeah, mostly memes. That's what a lot of relationships are now anyway. I feel like
Yeah, for sure.
just meme exchange.
And it's actually kind of a big deal then that we're all hanging out in the same room together for the
Yeah.
first time, because we're all in each other's orbit in one way or the other.
Well,
Well,
and-
how we've stayed kind of like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't mean this as an insult, but like proximity friends.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to pick
No,
up
I
and
totally
be
get it.
friends
It's
when
not
we are
insulting.
together and around each other because
and
of them.
the funny thing is like every time that we all, and this is the first time I've been hanging out with you, Cody Ray, but it's already cool.
Yeah.
But every time like I'm around Cody, I'm like, dude, Cody's awesome. Like we should all hang out more. And then
I
it's
think
like
the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
and then we just don't see each other for forever. But that was one of the reasons like I wanted to make sure that I could come down for this to be able to take advantage of this time. So.
Yeah, I'll say this. Like, here's something I don't say often about any situation in my life, but anytime that he does, like, you guys recently went on a trip to the beach or something together, and I remember thinking, like, where the fuck was my invite?
I actually
not something I ever
I've
think.
had that same thought when he does stuff with you. I'm like, dude, I could have come to that. You know?
We need to make an open invitation both ways.
We definitely should. And
yeah.
I think part of it is not even intentional. It's just like
Yeah.
we both, but I think probably, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Josiah, but I think like to a degree, like he values that one-on-one time with his friends. So he probably
Yeah.
like if he's gonna hang with you one-on-one, like he doesn't want that to be
Yep.
interrupted. And same with us, which I do value, but also like if it's somebody that I connect with really well, I'm cool with like I'm the more the merrier kind. As long as
Yeah.
people are cool.
I'm the same way, actually, so I can relate to if that is,
Yeah.
if you do line up with that.
I mean, I do value the one-on-one. I do really enjoy like the small or group dynamic like this. You get past like 5-6 people, it starts
Yeah.
to, it can.
Well, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
too.
and I think a lot of times
Then it's just a party.
where
yeah.
Which is also
four
cool.
is the small get together. 6 is a party.
I think 6 can work because then you can split into 2 groups of 3, and then
Yeah.
you can kind of bounce between them. But
Right,
you
but
get more
that's a
than that.
party.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Once a split happens,
It's a party.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think for me there is a bit of anxiety that comes with because you guys haven't hung out a lot, and I know,
Right.
and I would assume that you get along, and I've experienced that, but we haven't like really hung out a lot. I think there's an anxiety of coming of like, okay, I don't know how this dynamic is going to go, and so I don't, you know, it takes less.
it's never gone
and
poorly.
I know it's
Right.
it doesn't,
No, but it doesn't
it's
matter.
irrational. Yeah,
I get that. No, it's like
Yeah.
what can sometimes come across as sociopathic calculation is actually social.
I like that
Is
term.
actually social anxiety. Like I think that we just
100%.
fives just have such a deep seated social anxiety so often that I've experienced in my life with, you know, as myself and other fives, and that drives so much of our calculation.
Yeah.
around
which
groups.
is weird because I'm a social dominant 5 and I have like experienced the
Yeah, so
social
you're
anxiety.
usually in control
Social
anyway.
dom.
Yeah, so no, like meaning like I'm a social 5, and so there's a part of me that really craves that social aspect, and at the same time it can make me anxious. So I have to. And I'm much better about this now, but like I had to like find coping mechanisms to make it work because I also really needed it. But that's one of the reasons why, Brandon, I was drawn to you as a 7, and with I think the 8 wing is important in this too, because like even though you're a 7, you are the most like even keeled, kind of stable person that
for
like
sure.
in my life, and especially when I was younger, I felt so volatile because I especially because I have a really strong forewing. And so and then also, emotional trauma as a kid. And then I had all of this just irrational responses to things a lot of times.
Yeah.
And
I agree with that.
And so our relationship has been interesting how it's evolved over the years, because on one side, like, you've sort of helped me stay grounded in those times, which I appreciated. And on the other side, like, it was almost like it was a reminder to how irrational I was being. And because I couldn't process those emotions, I didn't know what to do with them. And so then I would try to stuff them down, and then they would just like come out. And then I felt shame around that. And it's not like you were shaming me for it, but it was just that contrast of you being like, why are you responding this way? Because you're just so like even keeled. And then I'm like, I felt bad. So I think sometimes I would push you away when I was in those volatile states, because
I agree with that.
I didn't want that contrast to remind me of that.
I didn't know that was the reason, but yeah, I do remember.
I didn't know that until like just now as I'm processing it. Yeah, but I was thinking through it. Yeah. But one of the other things that I always appreciate about you too is you could hang out with anyone. Like you had so many different kind of friend groups, like that were very diverse.
Yeah, I still do, and it weirds me out sometimes. Like I'm like, I don't even know how this happened, but it just happens that way.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that too is you have a very strong sense of self, and so in some ways, like, you're very non-judgmental. Like that's the thing, is like I've never really felt like, I always felt like I could be myself around you because you didn't like judge me. And even though sometimes we were really, really bad about this when we were young, but we would just like make fun of everyone.
Yeah.
Like we give everyone shit. And so there was that part, but like that was more of a superficial, just kind of like us being stupid teenagers.
Right.
Yeah.
But when it came to like real stuff, there was no judgment. Or at least I didn't feel it. Maybe you're judging me silently and I didn't know, but I never got that impression. And so that created space for me to work through, like, to learn how to work through that volatile stuff in my life without pushing everyone away. And so I was able to sort of take small steps towards figuring out how to integrate all of that. You probably don't realize you helped me with that, but just you being in my life helped me with that a ton.
No, that's awesome. And we've had similar conversations, but I think like you have grown so much in that realm in terms of like, well, we've talked about when you were young, and especially like in the church and all that kind of stuff. And then we like the church, without getting into all that, teaches you that all of these things are bad and wrong, and like they focus so much on like petty stuff that Yeah. And so it was like, oh, don't tell Josiah we drank yesterday.
Oh my God, the best story. The best
I
story.
was like that.
The party thing? Is that what we're talking about?
So we had like our like core group of friends. It was like me and Brandon and Derek and Nixon, and we often ended up at Derek's house because his mom basically let us do whatever we wanted. And
she was never home.
And she's never home. Yeah. And he had this like big screen TV, for the time was like a big screen TV. And they were over there drinking. And I was so judgmental at this point in my life that I would get pissed at them for drinking or for doing anything that, I thought was they weren't supposed to do. And so they had been drinking and like filming it.
Yeah.
And then they like with the I guess the,
well, ironically at that time, so we had somebody, I don't even remember who, had filmed like a house party that we had done at Derek's house. And we were like, oh, we wonder what's on this tape, right? So we put it in and we're drinking while we're watching it.
Yeah. And then I come over in the middle of this. And I walk in.
It's like drinkception.
And I walk in, and Nixon kind of freaks out because he thinks I'm going to get pissed. Well, I mean, he knows I'm going to get pissed.
Yeah, he knows. Yeah.
And he's like, man, I wasn't drinking. And then on this big ass screen is him drinking, right, as he's saying it.
Yeah. He's behind himself.
It's like you couldn't have written that into a sitcom any better than the way it happened. It was absurd, and we just like. I died laughing. I mean, it was too funny. I mean, but that's a thing that you've grown with so much, like in terms of just
being cool.
Like, yeah. That's probably the best way to put it. But I think like for me, just knowing, because I'm so much harder on myself than anybody else is. Mm-hmm. So and I think that's a big reason I don't judge people, is because I've screwed up so much over the course of my life, and all the things when I was young that I thought, oh, you're not supposed to do that, right? At some point, I've probably done it, right, or thought about it or something.
Yeah.
So now it's just like being realistic with yourself and being honest with yourself and saying, yeah, you know what, I've done something similar, so I'm not gonna talk about that person doing it. Whereas I think some people just ignore a lot of the things that they're doing and then focus on the shit that other people are doing, and then it makes it easier for them to judge people. But and a lot of times, if it's not a direct violation to me, I just don't care. Like if you're whatever you want to do in your life, if that, if you're enjoying it or whatever, then do it, man.
The way the three of us were raised leads to so much, because you talked about your family's more of like a back row. Like you grew up in like the Southern Christian tradition.
Right.
But the three of us were devout.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that leads to self-righteousness.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and
I agree.
And it's so, I think I've come to a place of non-judgment the way that you're talking about too. And it's slightly differently, but I remember like there was a point when I was probably 19 and my friend was 21, and we were talking about living together, and we played in a Christian band, and he wanted to have beer in the house if he wanted it. And I was like, that will not be allowed.
Oh, wow.
Like, we're two adults and he's going to
That's
pay
just so
rent
hard for me to
somewhere.
imagine.
But it didn't. And he that was one of the first people. He was like, if I'm paying to live here and I'm legally allowed to drink, I will put beer in the fridge, and you're not going to say anything about it. And I was like, how can he say that
Or
to
you
me?
can pay all the rent.
I'm correct. But I so identify with your like horrified, like, at your friends drinking. Like I would have done the same thing when I was a teenager.
You should have had to put little stickers on it that just says, was previously water.
Yeah.
And then it's fine.
This is Christian beer.
Yeah.
Brandon, I don't know if we've talked about this before or not. I think maybe, but for the longest time, because as a 5, I want to be seen as intelligent and competent. Mm-hmm. And for the longest time too, I even up to within the last, I don't know, 4 to 5 years, I think, I was self-conscious that you thought I was stupid.
Which is absurd, because you're one of the smartest people I know.
But I didn't know that you thought that. And it was because I was always warring with my emotions, and I felt irrational compared to you. And so then I translated that to intelligence, and then thought that you thought that I was stupid.
No, I think, and it's funny because, and I guess I should have maybe done a better job of telling you, but it just seemed like you projected for so long that you were intelligent. So I thought, well, he seems well aware that he's intelligent, right? So I don't mean to, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like you were walking around,
it's fair,
acting holier than thou or anything. Like you just came across as
I'm sure he was, though.
Confident in your yeah. Well, for a time he did, but not because of intelligence, but because he knew more about Jesus than everyone else.
Yeah. It's a different kind of intelligence.
I feel you on that.
Yeah.
But no, like you just projected like confidence in your intelligence, even if you weren't, you were projecting it. So I never felt like I should tell you. Like it just seemed like you knew, like intuitively. So, and I always looked at you as someone, like, even there are a lot of things that I think that you're smarter than me about. Like, and there are certain things, particularly in tech and things like that, that if I need to know something, I'm like, you're the first person I think of. I'm like, oh, I'm going to text Josiah about this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, and I've always thought you were like a very like analytical and intelligent person. You just, where we probably differed was just on the emotional part, right? Where your emotional responses were sometimes maybe not in line with like reality, as mean as that sounds, but like it sounds mean, but like they were just, and it was very,
I love that your searching led to that. You're like, not that one, not that one, not that one. Out of touch with reality. That's what we're going.
Actually, I was looking for something nicer and I couldn't find it. Like,
That's the best one. That's the best one. Fully in agreement. We're on the same page.
But
Go
like,
on.
it was just like, and it was also very hot and cold. So that's the part of the thing that would like really like shock me at times. Is like, yesterday we were having a blast, and today, like, you're in a terrible mood. You know what I mean? And so it was like, I'm like, how did we go from there to this? Like nothing happened between yesterday and today, right? But there was probably a lot of mental things that happened in that time period that got him there that I was completely unaware of. And then he's outwardly projecting it today where he didn't yesterday. And so like that was very confusing to me. And I was just like, dude, what the hell are you doing? It's
confusing to me too. That was the thing, is like I couldn't explain it. I couldn't put it into words. I had no way to process it.
Right.
And so then I just felt shame around it, because I'm like, I am acting like a crazy person. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I definitely can't like, and that's one reason why I would shut most people out.
And I'll be honest, I was a bad friend about that, because like I would get frustrated with it, and I would reach a certain point where I was like, you know what, call me tomorrow when you're not being a dumbass. You know what I mean? And I would just, which is not the friend thing to do at all.
I don't know. I feel like that was
16,
reasonable.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Well, at 16, when you don't really understand, and the person is also 16 and can't really convey to you why they are, they're feeling the way they're feeling, then it's like you just feel like you hit a wall and you're just not being fruitful in any of it. So you're just like, you know what? I'm leaving. I'll be back tomorrow. Don't be a dumbass when I get here.
I honestly, that's exactly how I want my friends to be with me now. But just like Josiah, I did not understand, number one, like I never had validation of the things that I needed to know were true about myself. And I didn't know how to validate the people in my life because of that. And now I do know those things. And it's like, I was so afraid also, like you were saying, that people didn't think I was smart, that people didn't like me. Like that was in my mind all the time. And then now I don't worry about those things. So I know all my friends who love me. Like I know why they love me, and I know why I love them. And if Cody, if you're ever just like, hey, you're being a dick today, like I need you to stop. Like I love you because I know that you see me. I know you know who I am. So if you tell me I'm being a dick, I'm like, oh, like he's not going, I don't like you anymore. This friendship's over because you're a dick. I've now seen some new information that makes me hate you.
Right.
It's like I see you and something that's not right. And I think that's the kind of friend I love.
That's a great thing. The difference is the relationship, though, right? Like,
but it's the validation. It's like there's like a foundation to it.
Yeah, you always know that you're good. Doesn't matter what they say.
Yeah.
I think it's more like, for me, it's more about self-acceptance, because I used to be the type of person that could
Much
not
better word on
hear
that.
it.
Same,
right?
but yes,
because if someone would tell me
That's
that,
true.
I would then start piling all this shame on top of it. And
your brain is like, here's why that's not true.
Right. Or it's just like, he's like, yeah, here's why it's true, and here's why you're a piece of shit for like all this stuff.
Right.
I'm just beating myself up.
Oh yeah, if it's negative, your brain is like, let me tell you why that's true.
Yeah. Whereas to your point, like now I'm at the point where I can accept the things that would be seen as deficiencies or things that I'm still working on. But at the same time, I can also accept my own worth and my own value.
Yes.
And I don't hate myself. And so now I also value that direct feedback, because it's a temperature check. It's like, the people who are closest to me are the ones who will see my blind spots first.
Yeah.
And that means they got my back. And so if you're pointing out my blind spot, you're not attacking me. You're trying to, you're helping me defend myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's a good way to put it.
Accepting and knowing yourself too is like, if somebody is like pointing something out, you're like, that tracks. That's me. I am doing that. I think too, I think too, like a piece of this, at least for me, was like, I was always like defending a narrative, a story of me. And so if somebody told me that something was not right, what I considered to be like, I've given everyone this perfect version of me, I'm succeeding and and making everyone believe this. And then if somebody's like, you looked like an idiot there, I'm like, my whole story's broken. And now my brain is trying to somehow it's like sew that back together and, make it okay. And I think that caused so much misery in me. I don't know if that tracks with you or the listeners, but that I feel like defending that story also causes so much of a brittle relationship.
Yeah, especially if most of the story is you lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of people do exactly what you're talking about. And I think with everyone, there's some truth to it and some not truth. Maybe some things that there's who you want to be and there's who you are. And there are good things to who you are, but also like the who you want to be is usually better. So you like to think of yourself that way, but if you're really honest with yourself, you're like, okay, I have some shortcomings on this in this story.
Right.
But it's getting to that point, and I would say there are many people who don't get to that point.
Yeah. Well, then self-acceptance is saying I'm actually all of it.
Right.
Like
exactly.
And I can only be all of it. And then you start to go like, oh, well then what do I want to be? Like, it's not like I need to be this to be okay,
right,
or I can't be this, or I'm not okay. You know, you're just kind of like, yeah, it's all there.
Yeah.
You know.
But one thing and I'll say with Josiah is like he makes a conscious effort now, and I've noticed this. I mean, I say recently. I mean, it's been years, but he makes a conscious effort to tell you exactly like the positive things that he thinks about you. And that makes it makes your self-acceptance better, and also like it makes you aware of exactly what you guys are talking about, where I know that he sees me, and I know that we're always good, and like so if he does say something negative, like he's way more apt to say something positive, right? So if he's saying something negative, I should probably take it seriously, and I should probably really think about it. So he's done a great job of that. And
thanks.
That's friendship.
And it's something that I need to do better at. So he kind of like reminds me sometimes, like he'll say something, I'm like, yeah, I need to start doing that more with people, not just him, but people in general who I'm close to. So that's something that he's...
So really what you're saying is he's still giving off that vibe that he knows everything, but it's now guru status.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I really love where you went with that.
I know. I was literally going to bring up like the same point, but differently. Like, earlier you mentioned that Josiah like made you want to be a better Christian.
Yeah.
And I think it's really wonderful that to me, like I think about my parents are still very religious, and I know that their mentality is like, I'm crazy for thinking the way I do now.
Oh, I know all my family thinks I'm crazy.
Right. Yeah. But realizing that like the beauty and the ethical and moral parts of Christianity has transcended like you two as humans, where like he's still encouraging you to find the best parts of yourself and vice versa, like the same way that when y'all were teenagers, which is awesome.
Yeah,
you
from a more genuine place.
You put it very differently, but
the roles have not changed. It's just maybe hopefully coming from a better place.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was coming from the best place all along.
I mean, I think that is true.
Somebody get Josiah a
and
robe
that's how
and a
we
beard,
tied the two
please.
friends. He just tied the two friends episodes together because he said that in the other one that we were just talking about.
Oh, damn.
Together. It's funny. It was meta.
It's called a callback.
Yeah, that.
Ever heard of it?
Well, I got to say, this was a wonderful conversation, and I'm so glad we did this.
Yep.
Not just because you guys said lots of nice things about me.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was, actually.
He was so nice to sit here for
It's
an
like
hour.
we're doing this again next week.
But no, I think that it can be hard to see ourselves from the outside. And that's why one of the reasons why friendships are so important, especially for fives who like live in our heads so much. Like I said with Brandon, like you've, in a lot of ways in different points in my life, you've helped me stay grounded. And so it is a great reminder of why it's worth investing in friendships in general, but especially as fives, because we can so easily neglect them and deprioritize them. But I feel like my heart is full. I feel like so energized and so full of life just sitting in this room with all of you and having this conversation. And so thank you for being here and being a part of this. I really appreciate you guys. You can respond.
Oh, I love you, Josiah.
Yes. Yes, master. Yes.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do I get to stage 4, Guru?
I hate you guys.
Hey, it's Josiah, and I wanted to say thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this episode and you're the type of person who likes helping others, would you do us a favor and share it with other people like you? If you found value in this conversation, they will too. I also want to give a special thanks to our community members who shared their voice with us in this episode. If anything in this conversation has resonated with you,
or if you have any further thoughts or questions, I want to invite you to join our community of other people like you and continue the conversation at Enneagram5.com.